Welcome to True Voice Shorts, a curated audio series that brings fiction, memoir, and reimagined classics to life, honoring language, voice, and the legacy of storytelling. This story is part of our Gentle Magic series, where imagination glimmers softly. Tales of wonder, myth, and quiet enchantment that remind us of the magic woven into everyday life. Today's story is The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde, a tender tale of a hidden garden, a selfish heart, and the quiet miracle of kindness. Oscar Wilde, 1854 to 1900, was an Irish poet, playwright, and author, celebrated for his razor-sharp wit and dazzling prose, and a unique flair for both the dramatic and the humane. Born in Dublin and educated at Trinity College in Oxford, Wilde became one of the most prominent literary figures in the late Victorian era. His work spans an impressive range, from biting social comedies like The Importance of Being Earnest to poignant and endearing fairy tales such as The Happy Prince and The Selfish Giant. Wilde's reputation for wit and satire often overshadowed the more tender dimensions of his work. In his fairy tales, however, we see an author deeply concerned with beauty, compassion, and moral introspection. These stories, originally crafted for his children, reveal Wilde's ability to blend lyricism with subtle philosophical inquiry. His tales do not shy away from sorrow, but instead weave it delicately into narratives of redemption and grace. Beyond his literary contributions, Wilde's life was marked by both extraordinary acclaim and profound personal tragedy. His public trials and imprisonment exposed the rigid moral hypocrisy of his time and contributed to his status as a cultural martyr for freedom of expression and individual authenticity. Despite the controversies that colored his later years, Wilde's literary legacy remains luminous. His short stories, including The Selfish Giant, continue to enchant readers for their timeless elegance and emotional resonance. In Wilde's world, humor and heartache walk hand in hand, and it is often through the quietest tales that he speaks the loudest. Let's begin. Every afternoon, as they were coming home from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there over the grass stood beautiful flowers like stars. And there were 12 peach trees that in the springtime broke out into delicate blooms of pink and pearl, and in the autumn bore rich fruit. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children used to stop their games in order to listen to them. "How happy we are!" they cried to each other. One day, the giant came back. He had been to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre, and had stayed with him for 7 years. After the 7 years were over, he had said all that he had to say, for his conversation was limited, and he determined to return to his own castle. When he arrived and saw the children playing in the garden, "What are you doing here?" he cried in a very gruff voice, and the children ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that. And I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." So he built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board that read, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." He was a very selfish giant. The poor children now had nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. They used to wander around the high wall when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden inside. "How happy we were there," they said to each other. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant, it was still winter. The birds did not care to sing in it, as there were no children, and the trees forgot to bloom. Once a beautiful flower took its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it was so sorry for the children that it slipped back into the ground again and went off to sleep. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. "Spring has forgotten this garden," they cried, "so we will live here all year round." The snow covered up the grass with her great white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees silver. Then they invited North Wind to stay with them, and he came. He was wrapped in furs, and he roared all day about the garden and blew chimney pots down. "This is a delightful spot," he said. "We must ask the hail to visit." So the hail came. Every day for 3 hours he rattled on the roof of the castle till he broke most of the slates. And then he ran around and around the garden as fast as he could go. He was dressed in gray and his breath was like ice. "I cannot understand why the spring is so late in coming," said the selfish giant as he sat at his window and looked out at his cold white garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." But spring never came, nor the summer. The autumn gave golden fruit to every garden, but to the giant's garden she gave none. "He is too selfish," she said. So it was always winter there. And the north wind and the hail and the frost and the snow danced through the trees. One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded so sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. It was really only a little linnet singing outside his window. But it was so long since he had heard a bird sing in his garden that it seemed to him to be the most beautiful music in the world. Then the hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind ceased roaring, and a delicious perfume came to him through the open casement. "I believe the spring has come at last," said the giant, and he jumped out of bed and looked out. What did he see? He saw a most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree that he could see, there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves in blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering in delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. It was a lovely scene. Only in one corner was it still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he wandered all around it, crying bitterly. The poor tree was still quite covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above it. "Climb up, little boy," said the tree, and it bent its branches down as low as it could. But the boy was too tiny. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. "How selfish I have been," he said. "Now I know why the spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever." He was really very sorry for what he had done. So he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away, and the garden became winter again. Only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he could not see the giant coming. And the giant stole behind him and took him gently in his hand and put him up into the tree. And the tree broke at once into blossom, and the birds came and sang on it, and the little boy stretched out his 2 arms and flung them around the giant's neck and kissed him. The other children, when they saw that the giant was not wicked any longer, came running back, and with them came the spring. "It is your garden now, little children," said the giant. And he took a great axe and knocked down the wall. And when the people were going to the market at 12 o'clock, they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. All day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him goodbye. "But where is your little companion?" he asked. "The boy I put into the tree." The giant loved him the best because he had kissed him. "We don't know," answered the children. "He's gone away." "Well, you must tell him to be sure and come here tomorrow," said the giant. But the children said that they did not know where he lived and had never seen him before, and that made the giant feel very sad. Every afternoon when school was over, the children came and played with the giant, but the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. The giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his first little friend and often spoke of him. "How I would like to see him," he used to say. Years went by, and the giant grew very old and feeble. He could not play about any more, so he sat in a huge armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. "I have many beautiful flowers," he said, "but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all." One winter morning, he looked out of his window as he was dressing. He did not hate the winter now, for he knew that it was merely the spring asleep and that the flowers were resting. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes in wonder and looked and looked. It was certainly a marvelous sight. In the farthest corner of the garden was a tree quite covered in lovely white blooms. Its branches were all golden, and silver fruit hung down from them, and underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. Downstairs ran the giant in great joy, and out into the garden. He hastened across the grass and came near to the child. And when he came quite close, his face grew red with anger, and he said, "Who hath dared to wound thee?" For on the palms of the child's hands were the prints of 2 nails, and the prints of 2 nails were also on little feet. "Who hath dared to wound thee?" cried the giant. "Tell me, that I may take my sword and slay him." "Nay," answered the child, "but these are the wounds of love." "Who art thou?" said the giant, and a strange awe fell on him, and he knelt before the little child. And the child smiled on the giant and said to him, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." And when the children ran in that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. The enduring legacy of the selfish giant. The Selfish Giant first appeared in Oscar Wilde's 1888 collection, The Happy Prince and Other Tales. Though Wilde is best known for his sharp wit and biting social commentary, his fairy tales reveal another side to his genius, one that is tender, introspective, and rich with moral depth. The Selfish Giant, in particular, stands out for its themes of isolation, redemption, and the transformative power of love. Wilde originally wrote these tales for his own children, drawing on traditional fairy tale structure but imbuing it with his own philosophical insight. Wilde crafted stories that feel both timeless and deeply human. In The Selfish Giant, the parable of a cold, walled-off garden mirrors the emotional barriers that people often erect around their own hearts. The transformation of the giant, from selfish to selfless, illustrates Wilde's belief in the capacity for change, even in those beyond redemption. Over the decades, The Selfish Giant has been adapted into numerous forms. In 1972, it was brought to life as an Academy Award-nominated animated short film directed by Peter Sander. The story has been retold in stage plays, ballets, operatic adaptations, and beautifully illustrated children's books. Its enduring popularity is a testament to the universal nature of its message. Generations of readers and viewers continue to be moved by the giant's journey from isolation to compassion. Literary scholars have often interpreted the story through various lenses. Some see it as a Christian allegory, particularly in the figure of the small boy bearing wounds in his hands and feet, a gentle symbolic reference to Christ and the redemptive power of love. Others view the story through a broader humanistic lens, emphasizing the importance of generosity, community, and emotional openness. Beyond academic interpretation, The Selfish Giant resonates because it taps into a universal truth. That true happiness is found not in keeping the best part of life to ourselves, but in sharing them with others. The story gently reminds us that the most beautiful gardens are those we open to the world, and that kindness can transform not only those around us, but also ourselves. Wilde's ability to weave such profound themes into a seemingly simple children's story is a mark of his literary brilliance. His tales, though often melancholic, are imbued with hope. They suggest that even the hardest heart can soften, and that redemption is always possible. In our modern era, the lessons of The Selfish Giant feel as relevant as ever. In a world where isolation and division often seem to dominate, Wilde's stories offer a gentle counterpoint. It encourages us to dismantle our walls, to invite others into our lives, and to find joy not in solitude, but in community. The adaptability of The Selfish Giant also speaks to its timelessness, whether experienced through a beloved illustrated edition for children, a theatrical performance, or an audio like this one. The story continues to find new audiences. Its ability to cross generations and cultures ensures that Wilde's voice, gentle and insistent, continues to whisper through time. Share your garden. In closing, The Selfish Giant is more than a fairy tale. It is a call to kindness, to generosity, and to the belief that it is never too late to change. May its gentle magic linger with you and inspire you to keep your own garden open, no matter the season. This was a True Voice short. If this tale added a little warmth to your day, I would love for you to share it or leave a kind word. Gentle magic is meant to be passed along. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more stories that restore wonder, one voice at a time. From True Voice Productions, empowering your story with voice.